Good afternoon. My name is Feng An. I'm the Executive Director of the Innovation Center for Energy and Transportation. Today, we would like to have a press conference for the U.S.-China subnational methane dashboard launching. And it's my great honor to introduce Ms. Fan Dai, the Executive Director of the California-China Climate Institute. And Fan, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. An. And it's my pleasure to be here today to launch. This is a very exciting data tool that we've developed in collaboration with several research partners. I would like to go through a few slides. The data tool is called the Subnational Methane Dashboard. And it's an interactive data tool that we currently focused on data and policy in the US and China. But in the future, we're hoping to expand the scope to beyond the US and China to include other jurisdictions. So let me just quickly go through what's about this data tool and the contribution for tracking emission reduction in different sectors for methane. So in general, this subnational methane dashboard, it is an online database and interactive platform, tracks global subnational methane mitigation actions by collecting and analyzing the methane-related governmental policies, emission data, and also pilot projects. So you'll see we have three pillars here. The first pillar is the database of policy and actions. And the second pillar is the methane data platform, where we use remote sensing data tool, and we also compare the data with point source and inventory data on the ground. And the third pillar reads as the pilot projects, primarily explain the best practices in those jurisdictions at the subnational level. So the California-China Climate Institute is undertaking this project in collaboration with a few research partners in development of the data tool and collecting the data. And the goal is to make this database a publicly accessible tool. And in next year, we will be launching this online. So for researchers and the public interest in knowing what the policies are in the US and China at the subnational level, they can go to this database and check out. They could also see the emission levels, which I will show in a few slides in near real time. Okay, so first pillar in terms of policy, right now, this data tool already included about 125 state-level methane policies in the US. And on the Chinese side, we already include about 77 both national and provincial policies, mainly in the coal mining and waste sector methane. This is just a snapshot of what you will be seeing on the policy side. We divided policies into different sectors, and we have further developed the policies under different names. And there's a description of the policy, the implementing agency, and obviously a link that will take you to where more details could be found about this policy. In terms of the progress, right now, this is a bit of initial research finding. On the US side, we have identified 10 states with methane-related quantitative targets. And these states are already listed here. My pointer, I don't know if you can see that, but it's highlighted in dark green. It's basically the western states in the US and a little bit on the northeast part of the United States. On the Chinese side, you also will see the green highlighted area. There are 6 provinces in China currently have developed a methane control action plan, including Liaoning, Tianjin, Shanxi, and Ningxia, Hubei, and Guangdong. There are 3 provinces right in the process of drafting their action plan, which also highlighted in a little bit of a shadowed area. That's Guizhou, Guangxi, and Anhui. So this is what you will be seeing on the data tool, which more in the format of like maps of the two countries. In terms of the emission data, what we would include on this data tool, first, let's talk about the US side. Here are a few examples of the emission data on the US side. First, on the left, you see California and Colorado. We have data collected and showing the trend of emission by year, starting from 1990 to 2020, about 2022, I believe. And on the right side is divided by sector. We use Arizona and Georgia as example. You see in different color codes, these are emissions coming from different sectors in these two states. So on the US side, data will be displayed in this format, both showing the trend by year and showing the emission by different sectors. On the Chinese side, we have a little bit more progress in terms of data. So this map is showing mainly a few provinces and region in different color represents the emission sectors coming from different sectors. Remember when I said we found 6 provinces in China with emission control plan. The next one is actually showing the 6 provinces plus the 3 with plans in draft. So in total, about 9 provinces in looking at their methane emission levels from also about 1949 to 2020, and in different colors representing the sectors where the emissions are coming from. Okay. This is, it shows the interactive map of emission data, which you'll see by color code. As it gets darker, the intensity of the emission actually it gets more. So on the right corner, you see the display the year. Basically, the trend here is very clear that from 1949, the color gets darker and darker each year, and now if we stop at 2020, you'll see most of those industrial developed provinces and regions in China having a darker color. So that's a display of China's data by region and also by year. This one shows China's emission also in different sectors, as you see here, including biomass, livestock, fossil fuel combustion, landfill, coal exploration, oil and gas, rice cultivation, and wastewater. These are a few examples of where the emissions are coming from different sectors. We collected data from 2005 to 2020, and you see in different sectors, there are actually quite slightly different trend in terms of the emission levels. We see a little bit of flat trend in rice cultivation, landfills, but you see very dramatic increase in the oil and gas systems, fossil fuel combustion, biomass. There is a bit of downturn on the wastewater side, and we saw a little plateau in coal exploration. So in the future, with the data tool, you'll be able to see in more detail in each sectors the trend of emission, and also we will be able to display all these sectors of data ranging from 2005 to 2020 now, and we're hoping we can go back in terms of the data availability for years earlier than 2005. Okay. The third pillar, as we go through, this is what the policy data tool will show you, which includes the pilot projects. I would like to start on the right side. So the right side, you see some red dots there. This is the pilot projects in abandoned coal mine in the US, and with the information available to us in 2021. So these are highlighted in red dots are the abandoned coal mine methane emission projects in the US. As an example, we would also be able to identify other pilots in the US showing on this map. So in the future, with the interactive tool, you'll be able to select exact sector and be able to see those pilots on the map. So on the left side, this is a project map demo on the Chinese side, which shows the subnational methane projects, including waste, agriculture, and energy methane projects in China. Also, you'll see this quite overlaps with the earlier map showing the emission levels. So mostly on the east part of China with more developed pilot projects. Overall, I wanted to convey the message of this interactive data tool is on the policy side, we have already collected this information, and we're hoping to identify state policy and using this framework to be able to compare the progress in different states and provinces. And we're hoping with the data tool, you'll be able to arrive at some conclusion of policy effectiveness and maybe develop some case studies based on what we have. In terms of the second pillar data, obviously we already identified methane emission trends and in different sectors. We hope this will help the policymakers to understand where emissions are coming from and where most aggressive actions should be taken to those addressing the emissions in those sectors. Now the third pillar really what it does here is to identify jurisdictions with pilot projects and serving as an indicator for both political commitment, but also on-the-ground subnational progress that have been shown. And we hope this would be able to bring to the future investors and also when it comes to project financing, what are the opportunities to finance some methane-related projects in different regions in the US and China, and obviously sharing the best practices. With that, I wanted to conclude and thank you all for listening to this soft launch of our data tool. And with thanks to the research team that coming from institutions listed here in University of California, Berkeley, University of Hong Kong, EDF, and Nanjing University and China's Academy of Sciences. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That sounds very impressive. May I ask you a couple more questions? First,
sure.
Next year, the new administration will take power in the U.S. So how do you think that will impact, number one, the U.S.-China collaboration on climate change in general, also particularly for your projects to move on?
Sure. So for this particular project, I think it contributes mainly in the data transparency and also the understanding of policies in both jurisdictions. As we all know, the political uncertainty ahead of us, especially after the election, there's a bit of possible rollback on the federal level in the US, which adds to the uncertainty on the policy side. I think this subnational dashboard does offer a bit of certainty in that regard, showing the actual progress being achieved at states level in the US. On the Chinese side, I think it also offers good value for data transparency and accuracy, because we all know tracking emissions not an easy job. And for the US and China, regardless of the bilateral relations, regardless of how and whether the two sides would be able to make further progress on the bilateral engagement, having a really solid foundation in terms of data, and this is about methane. If we expand that to other greenhouse gases, will provide really good foundation for understanding where the emissions are coming from, and so that both sides will be able to understand each policy. And I think just for MRV, for the sake of MRV, I think the whole world deserves a better tool to be able to track the emission in a more timely fashion and with the spatial and temporal tools that this will be providing.
Okay, that's great. So it seems like you believe that the subnational level collaboration will continue. And I also I thought you told me that your tool can not only address methane emission, also can be extended to other greenhouse gas emissions. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Sure. So initially, this is the data tool that we're developing, but in the process of design and developing this tool, we actually found this model quite replicable. So in the future, it's possible we can replicate this data tool to cover other type of greenhouse gases, especially for carbon emission, and which will, I believe, this kind of a tool, not just the tracking emission, will be able to also verify by using remote sensing data to verify on-the-ground inventories and improve the accuracy of data.
Thank you. So this is really wonderful. I'm wondering whether there's a question from audience and for this presentation. Okay. So there's the if there's no question, so I think I'd like to conclude this presentation. Thank you very much to come. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Take